There's a certain kind of forgetting that doesn't feel harmless. Not the misplaced keys or the name that comes back a minute later. Something else. A folk. A pause that lasts too long. A conversation you don't quite follow. A word that used to be right on the tip of your tongue, but now just drifts somewhere out of reach. You laugh it off. Say, I'm just getting older. But somewhere inside, you wonder, is this normal? Is this how it starts? Because we've all seen what happens when memory fades, when clarity slips, when the people we love become strangers even to themselves. And the fear isn't just about forgetting someone's name. It's about forgetting yourself, your stories, your voice, your independence. That's why brain health after 70 feels so personal, so tender, so quietly urgent. But here's what matters most. Your brain is not done growing. Not at 70, not at 80, not even at 90. It's still responding, still adapting, still building new pathways, especially when you give a reason to. The idea that mental decline is inevitable, it's not entirely true. Yes, changes come. Yes, some slowing is natural. But sharpness, attention, curiosity, creativity, those are not lost unless we stop feeding them. Unless we stop listening to what the brain still needs. And it doesn't need pressure. It doesn't need puzzles or apps or 20 supplements a day. What it craves quietly daily is rhythm, stimulation, rest, nourishment, connection, movement, simple things, human things, things that often get lost in the shuffle of retirement, quiet houses, lonely routines, and long afternoons that blur into each other. That's what we're here to talk about. Not fear, not decline, not statistics, but possibility. 6 gentle daily habits that help your brain stay clear, alert, engaged. Not in theory, but in practice. You don't need a medical degree. You don't need to overhaul your life. You just need to bring a little attention back to the spaces where your mind still meets the world with curiosity. We'll begin with something almost too simple to believe. But it's the one habit neuroscience returns to again and again. Not a trick, not a hack, just a quiet act of moving your body, which awakens not just your muscles, but your mind. Let's begin there. The brain doesn't live in isolation. It's not just a lump of tissue inside your skull. It's a living network, electrical, chemical, emotional, and deeply physical. And one of the most powerful ways to keep that network vibrant is to move your body. Not to exhaust it, not to punish it, but to wake it up. This is the first daily habit that quietly strengthens your brain after 70. Gentle, consistent movement. Not for weight loss, not for steps on a screen, but for circulation, for chemistry, for connection. Because when you move, walk, stretch, reach, breathe, you're not just helping your muscles. You're stimulating blood flow to the brain. You're increasing oxygen. You're supporting the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, a natural protein that helps grow and protect brain cells. Think of it as fertilizer for your mind, and movement is what helps spread it. You don't need marathons, just motion. 10 minutes of walking after breakfast, a slow stretch by the window, marching in place while the kettle boils, even shifting your weight gently from foot to foot while brushing your teeth. The point isn't intensity, it's frequency. Little signals to the brain that say we're alive, we're active, we're engaged. These signals help regulate blood sugar, lower inflammation, reduce stress, and protect areas of the brain associated with memory and mood. And movement also improves sleep. And when sleep improves, the brain clears itself of waste more effectively. That's right, your brain has its own cleanup crew. It activates while you rest, removing the buildup of proteins and toxins that are linked to cognitive decline. But it needs movement during the day to support that cycle. Teresa, 74, said she started walking laps in her hallway during rainy days. I used to think if I couldn't go far, it wasn't worth doing, she said. But even those little walks change how awake I felt. I don't reach for coffee right away anymore. I reach for my shoes. That's the shift. Not grand gestures, just presence in motion. Your brain listens to your feet. It responds to your breath. It's not separate from your body. It's shaped by it. So if you want to feel clearer, more focused, more grounded, start with your steps. Let your body become the rhythm your brain can follow. And once that rhythm begins, we can turn to the next habit. Something quieter, something deeply overlooked, something that takes no effort at all, but changes everything over time. It's not about movement. It's about stillness and what happens when the brain is finally allowed to pause. That's where we'll go next. The modern world rewards noise. Background television, constant scrolling, conversation that never ends. We've gotten used to filling the space, even when we don't need to. Even when what our minds actually crave is something far more rare: silence. Not emptiness, not boredom, but intentional, spacious stillness. And that brings us to the second daily habit that helps your brain stay sharp after 70. Quiet time every day. Not sleep, not distraction, but mental rest while fully awake. You might think your brain is resting when you're watching a show or chatting on the phone, but those moments still require processing, reacting, tracking. True cognitive rest happens when you stop taking in, just for a few minutes. When the radio turns off, when the phone stays on the table, when you sit, not to do, but simply to be. In those moments, the brain shifts gears. Activity moves from task-oriented regions to the default mode network, a system of deep internal reflection. This is where memory consolidates, where emotional processing happens, where your sense of self, of continuity, is quietly nurtured. Think of it as the brain's version of tidying up. No lists, no plans, just space. And what's remarkable is that regular mental rest, even in small doses, has been shown to reduce anxiety, improve focus, and protect long-term cognition, especially as we age, because the older brain becomes more sensitive to overload. It doesn't need more information. It needs more room to sort and integrate the information it already has. Daniel, 78, told me he started sitting on his porch for 10 minutes every morning with no agenda. At first it felt strange, he said. I kept reaching for something, a book, my phone, the news. But slowly, the habit took root. Now it feels like sweeping out the corners of my mind. That's what stillness can offer. A place for the dust to settle, for thoughts to breathe, for emotion to land. It's not about meditation or spiritual practice, though it can be. It's about reducing cognitive noise so the brain can catch its breath. You can do it anywhere. Close your eyes and listen to the hum of the house. Sit under a tree. Lie on a couch with your hands over your belly. Let time slow down, not as an escape, but as medicine. The mind doesn't sharpen through constant stimulation. It sharpens through rhythm, stretch and rest, input and pause. And when you give it that balance, you often find your thoughts become clearer, your memory steadier, your decisions calmer. From that place of internal quiet, we're ready for the next habit. One that nourishes not through silence, but through connection. A habit that keeps the brain young not through information, but through conversation, emotion, and shared laughter. Let's explore that next. The brain doesn't grow in isolation. It sharpens in conversation. Not the kind where you nod politely while someone talks at you, but the kind where there's rhythm, listening, laughing, remembering together. This third habit is often underestimated and sometimes lost entirely as we age. It's the habit of genuine connection. And for the brain, it's vital. Conversations, even simple ones, light up multiple regions in your mind. They activate memory when you recall a story. Language centers when you form responses. Emotional regions when you feel understood or surprised. Decision-making areas when you navigate social cues, respond to tone, shift direction. In a single 10-minute exchange, your brain is doing more than it might in an hour of passive reading. But here's the challenge. After 70, social contact often shrinks. Children grow up. Friends pass. Work no longer pulls you out of the house. And if mobility or hearing changes make communication harder, many people begin to withdraw. Quietly, gradually, sometimes without even realizing it. But the cost isn't just emotional. It's neurological. Loneliness doesn't just hurt the heart, it dulls the mind. Studies have shown that regular social engagement reduces the risk of cognitive decline, protects against depression, and supports executive function. The brain's ability to plan, remember, and adjust. And you don't need a crowd. One phone call, one heartfelt exchange, a short visit with someone who sees you fully. Even meaningful eye contact and a few words with a neighbor or grocery clerk can serve as brain fuel. What matters isn't the number of people, it's the quality of interaction. Beverly, 76, said she used to go days without speaking to anyone in person. I didn't feel lonely exactly, I just felt dim. Then she joined a small book group at the library. Not for the books, she said, for the stories around the stories. Now once a week she laughs, shares, listens. I feel brighter when I leave, she told me. Like my brain got a breath of fresh air. And that's exactly what's happening. Connection brings oxygen to the mind. It brings novelty, nuance, feedback. And when the brain receives that, it wakes up. So if your days have grown too quiet, gently reach out. Call someone who makes you laugh. Ask a neighbor to sit on the porch. Join a small group, even if you don't speak much. Be around story, voice exchange. Your mind doesn't just need stimulation. It needs relationship. And when that's in place, we can move to another kind of nourishment, not through speech, but through what we give the brain from within. Our next habit is about food, not diets, not rules, but the simple ways we feed the brain daily with fat, fiber, hydration, and warmth. Let's head to the kitchen next. Not all nourishment comes from words. Some of it begins quietly, on the end of a spoon, in the steam rising from a warm plate, in the first sip of water after waking. The brain is a high-demand organ. Even at rest, it consumes more energy than any other part of the body. And it's picky. It doesn't just want food, it wants support. This brings us to the fourth habit that helps the brain stay sharp after 70. Feeding it in a way that actually fuels it. This isn't about cutting out everything you love. It's about gently giving your mind what it has quietly needed all along: fat, fiber, hydration, and warmth. Let's begin with fat. Your brain is nearly 60% fat by composition. The protective sheath around your neurons, called myelin, is built from fatty acids. Without healthy fats, those signals slow down. That's why meals that include sources like olive oil, avocados, walnuts, flax, and fatty fish are so powerful. They don't just nourish the body, they stabilize thought. Fiber matters just as much. A well-fed gut microbiome produces compounds that reduce inflammation and support neurotransmitters like serotonin. That means a breakfast with oats and berries isn't just good for digestion. It literally brightens your brain. Hydration is often overlooked, but the brain is more water-sensitive than we think. Even mild dehydration can reduce focus, reaction time, and short-term memory. A glass of water first thing in the morning can feel like flipping on a light switch in a dim room. And warmth, something many older adults underestimate, brings calm. Soups, teas, cooked grains. They signal safety to the nervous system, ease on the gut, and better nutrient absorption. Margaret, 79, told me she used to skip breakfast, then grab a granola bar and coffee. By noon, I was scattered, she said. Jumpy, tired, like I'd already used up my brain for the day. Now, she starts her morning with warm oatmeal, cinnamon, chopped walnuts, and a little chia. It feels like wrapping my mind in a soft blanket, she said. And my clarity lasts. You don't need a perfect diet, but you do need presence in your choices. Swap one snack for something with real texture. Add an egg to your toast. Drizzle olive oil on your steamed vegetables. Choose color. Choose balance. Choose meals that speak not just to hunger, but to focus, to mood, to memory. Because what feeds your mind is rarely what's trendy. It's what your nervous system recognizes as trustworthy, real, and sustaining. And from that steadiness, your attention holds longer. Your moods swing less. Your afternoons feel clearer. But food is just one layer. Our final habit travels deeper. It's not something you chew or move or say. It's something you meet when you're alone. Something that speaks to the part of the brain that doesn't want information. It wants meaning. And when that part is fed, the whole mind becomes sharper. Not just with facts, but with purpose. Let's turn toward that now. There's a part of the brain that doesn't brighten with facts. It doesn't light up from vitamins or crosswords or green smoothies. It wakes up when you feel connected. When something inside you says this matters, I remember who I am. This final habit isn't one you measure or track. It doesn't show up on a calendar or in your step count, but it may be the most powerful of all. It's the daily act of returning to meaning. After 70, life shifts. The roles you played for decades begin to soften. Your work may be done, children grown, days quieter, and in that space, the question arises, sometimes clearly, sometimes as a whisper in the early hours. What now? The brain craves stimulation, yes, but it also craves orientation. It wants to know where it belongs in the story, what it's still here to witness, to create, to share. And when it finds that, it sharpens, not in tension, but in depth. Purpose doesn't need to be grand. It can live in the smallest routines. Writing one line each morning about what you're grateful for. Reading a poem and letting it echo. Tending to a plant. Telling someone a story they've never heard. Sitting with an old photograph and saying, that was real. That was me. That still lives inside me. These acts root the brain in continuity. They remind the mind that its stories still matter. That memory isn't just recall, it's belonging. James, 82, told me he started ending each day by writing one sentence that felt true. Sometimes it was about the sky, sometimes about his late wife. Sometimes it was simply, I was here, I paid attention. It sounds small, he said, but I sleep better. I feel clearer. It's like I'm still part of the world. And that's what this is really about. Your brain doesn't just want to be active. It wants to be anchored. It wants to know that what you do, think, feel, and remember still matters. Not just to others, but to you. So if your days have felt scattered, if your thoughts sometimes feel like leaves in the wind, try this. Choose one small act each day that gives your mind a thread to hold. It doesn't need to impress anyone. It just needs to feel real. Meaning isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It arrives like a quiet rhythm. A sense of I know where I am. I know why I'm here. I know what I want to carry into tomorrow. And when the brain feels that, it steadies. It strengthens. It remembers how to be whole. Let's look back. 6 gentle habits. Movement that wakes. Stillness that settles. Conversation that lights up the circuits of story. Food that nourishes without pressure. Hydration and color and warmth. And the sacred act of meaning that roots you in your own aliveness. These aren't magic tricks. They're not quick fixes. They're signals, repeated daily, that tell your brain, I'm still here. I'm still learning. I still matter. And in that message, day by day, clarity deepens. Thank you for being with us. If something in this resonated with you, share in the comments. What keeps your mind awake these days? Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and come back next time for more ways to stay present, steady, and connected to who you've always been.